New hair, kind of new style. Hi guys, it's your boy Ryan Thomas here, and today I'm going to be talking about owning a Nexus 6 from Motorola in 2016. Now this phone is the bigger brother to the Moto X second generation, so I may possibly do a comparison between the two. I have sold the S5 and the Moto X, but I still have the B-roll and I do have the Note, so I'm still able to make the comparison videos, but I don't have them on hand. The phones I'm using at the moment is the 6P and the 6. So should we start off with the fact that I'm a huge Nexus lover. I've used the Nexus 4, 5, 6 and 6P and Galaxy Nexus, and I have loved them all. And that kind of leads me on to what's happening in this. Now, halfway through owning this phone, I was also able to install Android N on it, which is a developer preview, and it allowed me to use all the new features and basically the development version of Android N. This is before the actual release. And even with Android N, it was buttery smooth. There were some small crashes here and there, but it was very minor, and for the most part, the experience was really, really smooth. So that's what it's like with the OS. Obviously, it's running Android 6 stock, and then if you want to, because it's a Nexus, you can put the development preview of Android N. So let's start off with the thing that's going to stand out the most to you if you are a smaller phone user, and that's the fact that it is rocking a 6-inch 2560 by 1440 AMOLED display, which is a gorgeous display. Now, me coming into this, I thought 1440p is going to be overkill, it's going to ruin the battery life, and I don't like it at all. But at 6 inches, it kind of makes a little bit more sense because the icons are actually a little bit bigger, so it kind of uses more pixels for certain icons, if you know what I mean. So it's not that you're cramming more screen real estate in, although you are getting a decent amount. It's that you're also kind of enlarging certain icons and parts of the screen, the UI. And that's really good for me because my eyesight isn't the best, and having nicer, like slightly larger icons does not only look cleaner, but also does help me use the phone a little bit easier. So if you're someone who hasn't got the best eyesight, maybe this is the phone for you. Because it's AMOLED, it also has a feature where if you pick up the device, it will sense that you've picked up the device and light the time and date, which are only the white pixels, and they won't light any of the rest of the screen. They'll leave it black, which means that they won't light any pixels, which saves battery and is a really cool feature. It's something that's almost taken from the Moto X. The Moto X, I feel, just a little bit better though. And of course the screen is covered in Corning Gorilla Glass 3, which is going to keep it protected from kind of big drops and things like that. Like, it's not going to protect your phone if you drop it off a cliff or something, but it's going to do a decent amount if you drop it from like waist height or something. For the specs then, it is also using a Snapdragon 805, which is a quad-core system on a chip, and that runs really well, like I said, with Android N and also Android M for Marshmallow. It actually runs really smooth and there aren't any hiccups or any issues with it. It runs games really well, it runs the basic apps really well. Applications, there isn't really much of an issue, and actually between this and the 810, I can't feel much of a difference. Now that's probably just me being a little bit more lenient with how I feel about certain chips, but this seems to run really, really well, and it kind of almost feels like a newer CPU than it actually is. I mean, this phone came out like a year and a half ago, and it feels basically brand new. Is also rocking 3 gigs of RAM, which is really nice because then you can use all of your applications and everything with multitasking, and it works well because it's 3 gigs of RAM. That's quite a lot of RAM for a phone. You can also get this with 32 or 64 gigabytes of onboard storage, and there isn't a microSD card slot. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to use the cloud if you want to expand your storage. Or you could always get one of those little adapters to plug your USB pen drive into, or get a specific one for the phone, because of course you can do that. It's just a little bit more bulky. For the cameras then, for the front we've got a 2 megapixel shooter capable of 1080p video at 30 FPS, and I found this to be quite adequate. It's not the best, but it works quite well if you're using Snapchat or Skype or something like that. For the rear then, we've got a 13 megapixel camera capable of shooting 4K video at 30 FPS, and it also has an f2.0 lens, meaning that you kind of get a nice shallow depth of field, and it's not too difficult to achieve this because of its larger aperture. Now this does have a few extra features like the ability to use wireless charging and NFC, but the thing with this is it does not have a removable back, it does not have a removable battery, which I'll get onto a little bit later. And it doesn't have a fingerprint scanner, which is a little bit disheartening because you'd think in a nice big phone like this, just if that dimple was a fingerprint scanner, it would make everything just so much more together and it feels more like a new phone. But they opted to not do that, which is fair enough because the phone feels great anyway. Talking of ergonomics, the phone feels really nice in the hand. I've got small to average size hands, more on the average side, and so having a nice big phone kind of, it feels good. I can one hand this quite easily. Obviously reaching the corners is an impossibility for me, so I am going to have to use 2 hands for it. But I feel like it's a really nice size, and jumping up from my iPhone 6s Plus, which was a 5.5 inch display, up to this, which is 6 inches, it feels like a nice screen, guys. Like 6 inches is not huge. It feels nice to me. I'm not sure if it's just me preferring the bigger size screens, but 6 inches is a really nice medium, and obviously it is on the large scale for most people, but for me it feels like a nice medium. The 5.5 and onwards kind of spectrum is really good, and if you are into your iPhones or you want smaller phones, then obviously I wouldn't recommend this. This is quite a large device. It's actually not that slippery because it has almost like a soft touch finish on the back. It's not soft touch, but it's kind of grippier with the metal rails around the outside. It's built really well, and it kind of feels more premium than I really think it is. It's not that extreme of a phone like a Galaxy S6 or the newer kind of Samsung and Apple devices, but it feels really nice in the hand because of the materials used. Now that battery is a 3220 mAh battery, which does sound like quite a big battery, but you've got to consider the fact this is a decently chunky phone, and it's also a large phone, you know, in footprint, so you've got a nice big space to put a nice big battery. Now this did last me a full day, even with a 1440p screen, and I'm quite a power user, like I've said in many other videos, so it does tend to get me through a full day. It also has quick charge 2.0 if you guys want to charge it nice and quickly, and like I said, with the wireless charging as well, it's really good for the battery. You know, it's not removable, but it lasts a long time. It's quick to charge, and if you want, you don't have to use wires to charge it, which is a nice little package there. And I would say this lasts me, like I said, a full day, sometimes even going into the next day, but it's nothing like my iPhone 6s Plus, which did actually manage to go through 2 or 3 days, but that's down to the software, not the hardware. It also has front-firing speakers, stereo front-firing speakers that is, which does take away from the Moto X 2nd generation, because that had a mono front-firing speaker setup, whereas this has stereo. Sounds great for video. Some of the best speakers I've actually heard. Because they're on the front. I mean, if people just put speakers on the front, it would make it so much easier. I think they look great as well, personally. I've had some people think that they were buttons, but no, they are speakers, so that's kind of how that works. The buttons, we have a ridged power button, and we also have a volume rocker on the right as well. They're both on the same side. Really liking this design. We got a headphone jack. As you guys know, I love it on the top, and it is in the front center, just like the Moto X 2nd generation. We've also got the SIM slot at the top as well, and we've got a micro USB 2.0 on the bottom. The unboxing experience is also quite good, actually. It's surprisingly good. I did like the Motorola box. I like how clean it is, and although that's not really to do with the device itself, I think it could be a little bit less of a deal breaker than most of the points I'm going on about in this video. But either way, I think that it's still kind of a cool thing to add. So overall then, what do I think? Well, the screen is gorgeous. The camera produces great quality images and video, despite the bad press around Nexus cameras. The battery is good, the performance is great, and the price, well, you can get these for about 180 to 200 pounds now in the UK, which is still really good because that's in an almost new condition. And I personally really like the white colour. I was thinking I'd probably go with the black version, but I picked up the white colour and I think it works really well. I mean, I've been reading notes off a 6P, and don't get me wrong, I really like the feel of this. Video to come soon, by the way. But the white finish and the kind of like rubbery style finish on the Nexus 6 is really nice, and overall fit and finish is lovely. So I'd have to recommend this as obviously a Nexus lover, but also because maybe you don't want to spend like £350 on a Nexus 6P and you want to go for still a slightly larger screen. I would recommend this. This has got to be a 9 out of 10. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.